I faced who I became, I know now why I became. And when you can understand what happened to you, who it caused you to, that's when you can change. And then you can help someone else change.
It's hurt people hurt people.
That's exactly
When you're hurting, you end up continuing the cycle and hurting somebody else
right. And
in the way that you were hurt.
yeah, I want to break generational curses by helping people understand, stop it. Okay, I get your story. I know it. I can go toe to toe with the average woman in prison. No, I've not been on the street and I've not done drugs, any of those things. But that pain, see, I try to tell them, the anger they feel, we've heard the phrase, it's not mine. I didn't coin this phrase, but anger is a secondary emotion. I spend all my time digging deep. What are you really feeling? What happened to you? That's always my question. What happened to you? Because how you're behaving is a mirror of what happened to you.
Hello, welcome back. This is Andreea Parc.
And Alexa Dumitru.
And this is Alive.Again podcast, a podcast where attorneys and other professionals meet to discuss real life challenges and how our decisions shaped our journeys. Today we have the pleasure of having with us Velda Dobson Davis. She is a retired Chief Deputy Warden and Program Coordinator for Healing Trauma Plus and Beyond Violence Plus at the Central California Women's Prison Facility. Velda has spent decades working inside various prisons and is deeply committed to trauma-informed rehabilitative programming that addresses root causes rather than symptoms. Velda is the author of Freedom Within, a trauma-informed guide to breaking cycles of addiction, shame, and self-sabotage. Thank you, Velda, so much for being here with us. It's a great pleasure to have you today.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
First of all, congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
The day that was out into the world was last week.
Yes.
And I am so happy that this book is helping so many people, and I cannot wait to hear about it from you. I would love to start from the beginning with your story. What brought you into corrections, and what early experiences shaped your belief that healing and transformation were possible even in the most challenging circumstances?
For me, I started in corrections. My father actually guided me into corrections. He was an occupational specialist at a school district, and he suggested that. So at 18, I took his advice. I became a police dispatcher. And then I had an opportunity to go work in the jail as a matron. In the 1970s, women did not work as correctional officers. We couldn't be certified as a correctional officer. So I worked as a matron, worked with individuals who came in overnight primarily on the drunk tank for prostitution, alcohol, drug use, those sort of things. To learn about healing and trauma, you'd have to go back and know that I'm an individual that grew up with, quote, family secrets. I had to dig my way out of my past. I got pregnant at 15 early. I left home. I got married to an abuser. I was in a domestic violence relationship for 4 years. So I'm an officer during the day, working in a jail during the day, and I'm a victim at night. I came to California to come on the Gong Show. I drove out here. Sherilyn got a record deal, and I told my brother, who was in the transit quarters at Travis Air Force Base, that I was coming out here because I wanted to pursue my dream of singing. When I got to California, I got to Vacaville, California, in Northern California. I never did see LA for a long time. He pointed me to a prison, to a church, an apartment area, and then he went on his journey. And I stayed in the Vacaville area where I met another abuser. And for the next 7 years, I would be victimized by him So, really my pathway is my journey, my personal journey, my lived experience of living this hypocritical lifestyle where I am one person during the day, but then I'm forced into another type of life afterwards. I started as a correction officer, started with the Department of Corrections that I work for now in 1978. Had a baby May of 1978, November 1978. I became what was called a seasonal clerk, a clerical position. In 1982, I became a correctional officer. I'm still in this abusive relationship. One of my peers told on me. They reported me to an administrator, and she helped me transfer to San Quentin and helped me get out of that relationship by that transition. In 1990 at San Quentin, I got certified as a substance abuse counselor. And that's when my eyes opened up to the possibility of healing from trauma. That's when I learned what it would take, that if you put in the work, that it's there for my grabbing, and I needed it. And that's what started me.
Wow, what a journey. It's incredible that the best workers in this type of helping and healing and rehabilitation are the ones who lived through their own experiences.
I would agree. It is a ministry for me. As I said, I started as a little girl, 5 years old, with trauma. Certainly getting pregnant early, and I'm a mama's girl. Leaving my mother was trauma. Marrying an abuser, trauma. And it was this snowball effect that had consumed me. And I'm inside this snowball, just rolling down this hill until 1990 when I started learning things. So when I escaped from this hostage situation that I was in, I wasn't free. I was so confused. I was so broken. I was so hurt. I was so traumatized. I tell people I'm a traumatologist because I have lived it, I've learned it, and I've worked it. I've taught it. So I'm consumed by the healing process now, but before I was consumed by the pain.
And as a Chief Deputy Warden, I'm sure that you witnessed both struggle and resilience a lot. Was there a defining moment that showed you the need for trauma-informed approaches? And what inspired you to teach programs like the ones that you're teaching now, the Healing Trauma and Beyond Violence, and your new book, Freedom Within?
So, as I said, in 1990, I got certified. 25 of us staff, correctional staff, were certified to be substance abuse counselors specifically for offenders. So the Department of Corrections partnered with Sonoma State University. They came in, Sonoma State came into the prison in the evenings after work. We went through this curriculum, we learned it, we got certified. But out of the 25, only 3 wanted to do groups, and I was one of those persons. I did my first group on a level 4 yard, so righteous level 4, the highest level of prisons at San Quentin, with a gunman over my group. But because the question is, why does a woman stay home? We know you have children because we all know each other, and you're here working with the men. Why? So he's out the window listening to us. By the 3rd week, he's rendering his opinion, sharing some of his life, his journey, and learning along with us. That's when I knew I was onto something. Sitting on a yard with 12 individuals, but the staff member is also listening. And the magic that happens in a group is what captured my heart and made me realize this is difference making, not just for incarcerated individuals, but for staff as well. What do you do with this information? So it's in the back of my head. I continued on my journey with the department and left that prison and went to several others. 1995, I met women. I worked at a women's prison for the first time. Small population, didn't know anything about them, but I saw Velda. I saw that 5-year-old girl. I saw that 15-year-old girl. I saw that victim of domestic violence. I saw the hypocritical life. I saw it with my own eyes, which meant I saw me. So I continued to write curriculum, but I didn't teach until I retired in 2012. And I retired in 2012 to help my military son. September 11th, that everybody talks about, was my son's activation day. September 10th was a good day. But on September 11th, we all knew there was going to be a war. And my son had chosen to go in infantry in the Army, front line. CNN made war real to me because they had a person embedded with the military. So I got to stay up all night and watch this stuff. My son came home in 2012 as a combat veteran. He went in at 18. He comes home now almost 30 with PTSD. He was not successful. I wasn't successful helping him. He committed suicide in 2013. I continued to work. And then in 2018, Tiffany Holmes, who was an incarcerated individual serving a double life, brought to me the idea that there are persons in prison who did not have the normal route to prison. They weren't hooking prostitutes. They weren't using drugs. They lived normal lives. And she kept impressing this on me. And I thought about the fact that as a chief deputy and as acting warden, I'd done adverse action against staff who had drinking problems. And I started thinking about that. Then another lady came to me. Her name, I won't share her name, but she was a nurse. And she said, for 19 years, served as a nurse. I came here 6 months ago in a reception center, and due to my drinking. And I'm clutching my pearls like, what? You were a nurse? And I'm trying to imagine being that girl in the hospital. And I'm, really, my mind is blown by this information I'm getting. And I realized that this is a societal problem. And it hit home for me that this was real. I learned from them. And we started this program. I found all the persons doing a DUI, and most of them, 95% are serving life or extremely long times, because when you kill someone, all bets are off the table. I took it to the community, to a traffic school person to say, hey, we have this information we'd like to share. We even did a video at CCWF. She watched it. She's very nice. Thank you. But I have more men than women. I said, okay, I know where men are. Because I'd worked at San Quentin and the warden there, I was familiar with him, having worked with him. I went and asked him, could I start the same program at San Quentin? He allowed me to do that. We started that one in 2019, and then we had video made by San Quentin men as well. And I continued to teach at both of these prisons this information, trying to get it out to society. In 2020, when COVID hit, is when I sat down and really wrote, took all their collective thoughts, suggestions, ideas, and we put it together, and I made the curriculum. I used it until 2025. That is when I decided that I had grown so much, learned so much from them, that I needed to add more information to it, and I needed to add Velda to it. That is when I created Freedom Within. It is comprised of their thoughts, my thoughts, regarding DUI, distracted driving, and I add what was my transitional point. We're also now working on a youth distracted driving booklet, because that is where it starts. When we're young, we learn these habits, and also they're watching their parents, so they believe that, I can drive drunk. My mom did it. She drove me to school every day drunk. I can drive distracted. She's on the phone having her conversations with a cup of coffee in one hand, phone in another, knee to the wheel. So we're working on this curriculum right now.
This is so important work.
And it's a really beautiful story.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit more about your book and the difference between DUI and DWI, because a lot of people don't know there is a difference.
You don't use the term DWI as much in California. We are the driving under the influence, and it can be not just alcohol, it can be drugs. I have a new work that we're doing right now, and I learned from a gentleman at San Quentin who is doing a double life sentence, how emotional distraction, how powerful that is. His crime, no cell phone in hand, no alcohol in body, no drugs in use, overwhelmed emotionally, just floored it, ran through a red light and killed someone. So we're working on something that we call Don't Let Your Emotions Drive You. And so the influence is where you're cognitively not there.
You know, we've had this discussion with a lot of our guests, and it's come up a lot in a lot of our podcasts. This idea of victimhood, and how victimhood, the idea of we are always victims in our own lives, keeps us in this cycle of trauma. And so, with your experience of DUI, and you know all of your experience working in prisons and your own personal experience, how does this idea of victimhood come into play, and how does that help you get out of the trauma?
Well, one of the hardest pieces of the work that I did with the incarcerated individuals, and I will tell you, it was both male and female, was we didn't just start and I get a group of women in a room and write curriculum and make a video. We had to start right there. First off, I need you to accept responsibility for your behavior, right? Regardless of how you got behind that wheel, you killed someone, you ruined lives, you robbed parents, you robbed children of their loved one. And so it took us a lot of time because we do come to the table with so many issues, and it can become our crutch. It can become our excuse, right? There's always a point in your mind where I believe, because this is lived experience. Did I say that? That I know everything about it because I've done it too. I'm just the lucky one. And many of the persons listening to us will say, yeah, I'm the lucky one. Because see, not until you kill someone does your approach change. So I had to help them understand. I realized you were molested. I realized you were raped. I realized you were trafficked. I understand all those things. But what we're talking about is what you did on that day to that victim. And so we had to kind of peel back layers, separate that methodology of being a victim of crimes in their lives, because no one has asked them. And you'll hear in the video, Tiffany brought it home to me. She says, it's so interesting. And even in my own life, my mother would say, what's wrong with you? Can't you just be like everybody else? Can't you just be normal? But nobody ever said, what happened to you? See, that's the question that we need to ask. Victims want to be asked, not what's wrong with me. Everybody can see I'm be acting bizarre, but why? Why am I doing it? And so we worked on the what happened to you. We got that out on the table. Okay, that happened. And it took months, before we even pursued a video, because they came in, see what happened was, and no, this is not about your story. This is about the victim and the harm you caused. See, that's what's required. Number one, accepting responsibility, identifying, yep, I did it because of, but it doesn't justify it. So I don't spend a lot of time allowing them, if you will, to wallow in victimhood. I want them to face the realities of their behavior, why they did it, understanding me. When Velda understood Velda, it made a difference in how I behaved. I was able to take all that pain out of me and look at it, place the blame where it belonged. And it wasn't until I did that I continued on my journey.
That's so important, because unless we take responsibility, we all have stories and we all get stuck into that story, pointing fingers from childhood, parents, and then bullying in school and this and that. But at the end of the day is how I see what I am doing, what I have done to cause and to get where I am right now, because ultimately it is my responsibility how I perceive and how I reframe the story of my life to go forward clear and be able to change our future, basically, because we can't do that without responsibility.
I believe that most of my work, I do it from the stance of being a perpetrator, because I believe learned behavior teaches us to be that person. So I do a work called Face It, which is for interpersonal violence, but only for perpetrators. Because I believe though you've been victimized, yes, I get it, now you've become the perpetrator. You've put on that hat. You've assumed that role. And so that's how I approach my work. taking responsibility, ownership. I don't let anyone off the hook, not even myself. I faced who I became. I know now why I became. And when you can understand what happened to you, who it caused you to, that's when you can change. And then you can help someone else change.
It's hurt people hurt people.
That's exactly.
When you're hurting, you end up continuing the cycle and hurting somebody else.
Right.
In the way that you were hurt.
Yeah, I want to break generational curses by helping people understand, stop it. Okay, I get your story. I know it. I can go toe to toe with the average woman in prison. No, I've not been on the street and I've not done drugs, any of those things. But that pain, see, I try to tell them, the anger they feel, we've heard the phrase, it's not mine. I didn't coin this phrase, but anger is a secondary emotion. I spend all my time digging deep. What are you really feeling? What happened to you? That's always my question. What happened to you? Because how you're behaving is a mirror of what happened to you, what's bottled up inside of you.
And your book moves readers from denial to awareness, because basically we can't do anything without awareness, and from shame to healing. How does this process reflect in your programs and how you teach people, and why is so transformative?
I tried to take this work and acknowledge in the beginning that I didn't start on this path by myself. I was pointed in this direction, follow the yellow brick road, following the path. They taught me both male perspective and female perspective and Velda's lived experience. What I did have as my North Star, and I provide to them. And so the book is comprised of all of those thoughts, information that I learned, and I put it together. Embedded in the book are the principles that taught me, that brought me out of I lived in the belly of my own beast. While I work in the belly of the beast, I lived in it. I lived there in this dark place, which changed who I was as a person, that changed my thoughts and view of the world, of how I didn't trust. I was afraid. It's a very lonely, isolated place to be. And I created what I call them my pillars. This is my prescription. I write a prescription to my incarcerated, and this is what I use. And I believe that attitude matters. My attitude toward who I was, I had to take ownership of that. I believe that aptitude mattered. The more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. The more I learned, the more I understood. So aptitude mattered. I learned that atmosphere matters. I'm responsible for who comes around me. I hold myself responsible for that. If you're not going where I'm going, don't go with me. And I also believe that appearance matters. There's only one opportunity for people to view you. And, for the incarcerated, even though you are in prison, you don't have to look like a convict. For individuals in society, I was that person that went through hard nights, but I got up every morning and I was like, you're going to shake this off. You're not going to look like what I just went through. You will not control me in that way. And so that was my fight. And those 4 pillars are what I offer in the book for individuals. And when I tell you, when individuals inside prisons, I pastor a church, when individuals that I work with in small groups, when individuals that I talk to say, you know what, I took that prescription and I follow it, it's life-changing. And that information is in the book.
My favorite one is appearance. Mm-hmm. Because it's something so small that you can control in the moment.
In the moment.
You can do something about it right now.
Right now.
I'm going to put on that lipstick. I'm going to do my hair up real nice. And I'm not going to let that be me.
Yes. Yeah, I just firmly believe I could not control a lot when I was in those situations. I could not control when I was a little girl. I could not control, I could control getting pregnant. But the reality was it happened. And I couldn't control that unknowingly. That's the thing that hurt my heart more than anything. If I had known this was an abuser, right? Before I got sucked into that situation and had any options, I felt I had no options in my mind. And so I made poor decisions. right? But what I am in control of, I'm in control of picking up a book and learning something. I am in control of spraying me some perfume on me and slapping on some lipstick. I'm in control of how I treat you. You weren't the one that did it to me. You see what I'm saying? We leave home angry and bitter, and we're angry at the person who's harming us, but we take it out on the world. And so I firmly believe that, those 4 pillows will change lives.
And you mentioned something very important, that it was unconscious and that you didn't know.
Right,
We do things because we don't know better.
right,
At the moment we're doing things, we believe that what we're doing is the best.
right,
When we learn better, we can do better.
right. Yes, I firmly agree.
Tell us a little bit more about your ministry.
Okay. I was licensed in 2005, and we attended my father-in-law's church in 2012. My husband started a church 2013. I became the pastor of that church, and my ministry is not large, but it is where I am needed, and it is where I get to use that. I have persons that are previously incarcerated. I have individuals that come from broken homes. I have persons that I've learned have been victimized with molestation, incest, those sort of things. I have individuals that had children out of wedlock. I have the opportunity to work with the child whose parent is incarcerated. And I didn't know until you start listening. I get paid to have Dumbo ears and listen. And I learned that through this girl talking. My child's in foster care in Stockton, and they're, going to this church, and they have a woman pastor, and I'm listening. I'm like, okay, so now I got to listen a little more at church. So I'm listening to my children, and then I hear my mom is incarcerated. She's at CCWF, and I'm like, wait a minute. And so then I'll hear the mom say, I don't write because I know she won't write me back. Write your child, write your child. And I hear the child say, I probably never see her again. Write your mom, write your mom. And so I get to kind of help do those sort of things. I have a group of women there. I'm 70 now, and I have women there that I can relate to as we transition. Getting old sucks, I believe. but there's also a fight you got to have in you. So I get to pour that into them. I have men's ministries there, that persons who I get to say, you are a great dad. You can be a great dad. Fight for your children. So I'm a champion. I'm a cheerleader in the community for all, women, men, children is what I do. Previously incarcerated are welcome at my church. I believe in the Lord. That's my ministry. And so that's what I teach unapologetically. So one of the new works that I'm working on now is called Healing Trauma Through the Word. So it's a biblical approach to dealing with trauma. And I teach on YouTube, Velda Dobson Davis. But I have my sermons posted on YouTube. And I just believe that I can make a difference in the community. I have the opportunity to work with men who are living unhoused in a program. And so I try to transition what I do inside. Prisons are a mirror of society. Everybody I meet in prison, I will meet in my church. I will meet in Walmart. In fact, I tell people all the time, I feel safer in prison than I do in a Walmart. I know everybody there earned the right to be there. I know their capability. I don't know who's in the Walmart line. That might be my next person coming through prison. So, I believe in doing this work, this ministry in the community. I work with veterans. I have a piece that I'm working on regarding my son. I call it Welcome Home Son, because when my son came home in 2012, the programs that they have now, they did not have those programs available. It was a fight to get a job. I didn't understand it. I even went and applied. At the same time he applied, to understand, why are they turning you away? You got 10 years plus military. But he had 10 years of being in infantry, front line shooting and killing. So he didn't come home with a saleable skill, if you will, going in at 18 years old. Not what I had hoped for him in the military. But, life is what life is. I'm very accepting of where the Lord has placed me. I realize that out of that pain, out of all my trauma, out of all of my sorrow, has birthed ministries that have been of benefit to other persons.
I want to give a little spotlight to that little girl whose mother is incarcerated, because I used to be that little girl. And I think it's really important to speak to those children.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, all of those people who are incarcerated currently, they have families, they
Yeah.
have children, they have mothers, they have fathers, they have uncles, brothers, sisters.
Yeah.
And prison is about punishing the person, but not really, because it punishes the whole family.
Yeah.
And especially children are really affected by that, especially children who are under 18.
The Department of Corrections, the California Department of Corrections Rehabilitation has been really helpful in allowing me to have visions and offer them, suggest them, and they allow them to happen. I'll tell you two things that happened in 2024. I wasn't able to accomplish it in 2025. These things cost a lot of money. But we established Troop 2020 at Central California Women's Facility for Girl Scouts. And if you want to see something adorable, you watch those individuals in a visiting room interacting with their children, the little girls in uniform. We sell the Girl Scout cookies, so that's one project. The warden allowed me to create a mother-daughter book club. We bought the books called Mended, and they were able to come into the room, 35 women, decorate those books, mail to their child, and together they're reading this book. And I also have a picture of a little girl reading her book the mother shared, while the mom, we have a picture of her inside the prison reading the same book. It's adorable. And finally, the biggest accomplishment was what's called Camp Grace. 8 women in 2024 were allowed to visit their child for 8 hours, an entire day, for 5 days. This organization got an Airbnb, picked up the children of Northern and Southern California, brought them to Central California Women's Facility, and for 5 days, all day, did projects with their children. 2 of those children had not seen their mom for 10 and 12 years. You know that pain. They hadn't seen them, had no one to bring them from Southern California to visit. I was so honored that the department allowed that to happen. And I'm hoping in 26 to be able to replicate that, looking for funding to do those projects. But it is so important, because if we don't invest in the partnership, they're still parenting, particularly mothers. I do have some fathers that talk of their children and parenting as well. But they're going to go home. Number one, I invest in the individual, but I need help to invest in the partnership of bringing the child and mother together, so that when they go home, that's normalcy. That's normalcy. I have individuals who have mental health issues, and their children have lived with mental health. They need to know about those things. They need to be taught about those things. And so I work to identify a problem. That's what I spend my time doing, listening, identifying a problem, and trying to address a need. We're working on an arsonist piece now. We're very early in that water, but we're right probably about the ankles, if you will, in that particular work. But there's a need, and I didn't know it. And so they bring me needs. I create programs in partnership with them, their lived experience, information I find, reading and studying, and we go forward that way.
Is there anywhere we can donate and the audience can donate to fund these programs?
That's a good question. I don't know how we would funnel that, but may I give my information? I would love to find out, because I want this has to go to the organization. I'd like to give the organization information exactly. So I'm Velda Dobson, Dobson Davis, Velda Rosette, Rosette, at yahoo.com. And you're welcome to reach out to me if you have desire to assist the partnership of children and mothers in healing that process. There's also Abundant Word Christian Center. I pastor that church. We do ministries in the community as well. So they're welcome to reach out to me, and we will make sure that these go to the Department of Corrections, more importantly to the organization, because what happens is the funds go to the organization, They create the program. The Department of Correction has the individual, and they permit the program. So that's the partnership there. But it starts with funding to create these things. It was an extreme amount of money to do Camp Grace. The books for the Mother-Daughter Book Club had to be purchased, had to be mailed. So the department assisted in me in doing those things. In my church, we contribute as well. And so it's a partnership, and I would love people to help. I would. It's very satisfying because what many people don't know is that inside, I tell my individuals this all the time, they're putting in the work. I am mindful that we have families out there that have been victimized, destroyed by individuals, but the only way for them to make amends is for them to get healed from their trauma and to do good work inside and earn, hear my word, earn their way back to society. But many are going home. Who do you want living next to you? A person who's put in the work and taking care of what brought them to prison, or someone that sat idly? I want someone who's put in the work, and I mean a lot of work. Earn this thing, right? I also do work in the community. I work with 100 individuals, lifers, who have paroled. And I call that work bridging the divide, because there are things that they get inside that won't help them in the reentry process. So I'm the bridge. I learn what they need. I go back to the department and say, we needed to add that. We need to do this. And so I bridge the divide by helping them. I'm an accountability partner. I am their North Star and a listening ear. So that the reality is, out of that 100, only one has gone back to prison.
That's incredible. And we need more North Stars like you
Okay.
everywhere in the country, not just in California.
Believe it or not, they are out there. They're the unsung heroes, because this work, I'm really honored. If I didn't say it, I want to say it again, that you're taking the time to listen. I've been doing this work a long time. I've been in corrections 47 years. I've been writing and doing curriculum and teaching since 1990. I'm not the only one. I work with a program called Pathways to Kinship. I work with a program called Envision and Justice. There are many programs, and they're not designed just to be in California. I will travel anywhere to teach this information. The reality is that we're almost under the radar because we work with a population that is not on the forefront of many people's minds. Once you've committed a crime, and I don't care what your job is, I don't care who you were, I don't care what degrees you have. Once you have committed a crime, people want to put a stigma on you. And what I believe is that once I have committed a crime, identify why and what happened to me, have put in the work, I am now armed and dangerous to help society. Number one, prevent somebody from going to prison, to make a difference in my community. I am your advocate because now I understand both sides of this world, and I'm better prepared to assist.
The work that you're doing is very important, and in your book you emphasize that true freedom begins in the mind long before release. How can someone apply this principle, whether or not they were incarcerated, to overcome trauma and self-sabotage?
Andreea, I would submit to you that prisons are a small population compared to general public, right? That people listening to us today are imprisoned in their minds, in their situations, in the bottom of a bottle, in their homes, on drugs, and they don't, because they're not behind walls, not doing time, if you will, they don't realize they're not free. And so I believe that they're listening. I want everyone, because I lived that hypocritical life. I lived it. I know how damaging and painful it is, how isolating it is. Nobody knew that I had trouble. Nobody knew that I was going through this. I could put on sunglasses and hide a black eye and spray myself up with Chanel and slap on some lipstick, and you'd never know. Go about my business, and I'd get home, and I made it through another day. Because people rarely look you in your eyes when they say good morning. They say it in passing. But depending on society, to be who society is, people are faking it. So I want this work so badly to be in society because we normalize drinking and driving. We normalize using drugs. We normalize it until you kill someone. And then all bets are off the table. So I want this information out there. I want people to realize I have a problem. I want them to say, my neighbor has a problem. My child has a problem. My nephew, whoever has a problem. And I have a tool that can help them. So you read the book and you're armed with information that you can have a conversation. So many ways that I believe that this book can help them. Because self-sabotage is when you pretend to yourself that you don't have a problem. You really are faking it till you make it. And for some people, they go to their grave, lying to yourself, wearing that mask. They go to their graves. Domestic violence is on a rise. We do great work regarding domestic violence because so many people are embarrassed to say, I want it normalized to say, I need help. And then I want it normalized for us as employers, as co-workers, as relatives to say, it's okay to ask for help. Ask for help. There are tools out there to change. They're available to you, but we have to take the stigmas away. That's what I believe. So,
for someone listening right now who feels trapped by trauma or shame or self-sabotage, what words of inspiration would you tell them from your book and from your work that would help them begin reclaiming freedom and purpose and basically control over their life?
What I want them to know, if I had an opportunity to get on a megaphone to the world today, I would want them to know is that I see you and I hear you and I recognize your need. What happened to you does not define who you are. Your worst moment in life does not dictate the rest of your life. But you must put in the work. You first must identify what happened to you. Then you have to say, I'm going to do something about it. And I want you to get indignant regarding the fight that you will have to go through for this change and be willing to work on yourself. But then it's that it doesn't stop there. After you've accomplished that goal, I want you to commit to helping somebody else. All around us are people that have needs. We are so caught up in our own world that we don't see them. We don't see other people. We don't hear them. I want the world to take the glasses off, take the blinders off, recognize the needs, help somebody else, pull someone else up as we try to pull you up. That's what I hope the book does.
This is beautiful.
Thank you.
And now that we're approaching the end, there is one question that I ask every guest, and that is, besides your work and responsibilities, what is one activity in your life that makes you feel more alive?
I love my grandchildren. I have 27 grandchildren, and I have had the opportunity to be immersed
God bless.
in their life. And my last journey, I believe, will be, I have a 17-and-a-half-year-old that will graduate next May. Being relevant in my grandchildren's life, being present, being wanted, being needed. They don't need a Nana, but Nana's there. Being available, not only to them, but their friends and, the little kiddos at church. I want to be that significant person. I have absolutely no desire to retire. I'm going to leave it all on the field. That's just me. I don't desire to go on a beach. I want to be the person that left this earth making a difference. That's what I want to do. So what makes me happy? Hanging out with grandkids, sitting on a bus stop, not waiting for a bus and just eating an ice cream cone, watching them at a skating rink. Those things bring me joy. So, and including all their friends, because I get to spill into lives where they may not tell me there's a problem at home, but I know, I recognize.
Unfortunately, I don't think that there is one family that doesn't have some hidden stories and skeletons in the closets. And it's true, children feel, and they're the most affected in a family like that.
I'm still that 15-year-old girl. For whatever reason, I'm able to compartmentalize my life, but I'm more affected by what happened to me as a teenager because I was more aware, and felt like I could have changed that trajectory, but I wasn't able to. I was ill-equipped. But when you meet these people that are acting out, they're normally that 12-year-old child, that 15-year-old kid, that 5-year-old, whatever it is, but they haven't grown up emotionally. So that's what we're facing in society. A whole bunch of little kids out there hurt and broken and not being able to face their trauma. So be careful. There are kids running around.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and for everything that you're doing. And we will definitely link all of your information to the description of the video for people to get in contact with you. I wish you best of luck with everything that you're doing and to get the funding and to grow and so many more programming for people because there is need.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just honored to meet you both. Thank you.
Thank you. Our listeners, thank you for listening. For more conversations and more guests, please subscribe and follow us. Thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks.